enjoying our last few weeks of full-time summer break, and while we are enjoying every second of the relaxed days and the slow schedules, I am finding myself excited to turn a new page and start off our school year. It will be the first year that we are homeschooling all of our kids. We have a second grader and a preschooler, and we actually have our daughters are 1 year apart, so we're going to allow our 3-year-old to join in on preschool as well, and our little baby will also of course be there. So we're excited to see how this new chapter turns out for our family. With the longer, hotter days, I've actually been trying to be in the kitchen a little bit less, but I am enjoying cooking and baking some summer treats that are a little bit nostalgic. I am making one of our favorite desserts for summertime, which is oatmeal cream pies. I have a very vivid memory of my dad taking us on our birthday to this little gas station that was down the road from our home. And every year on our birthday, our dad would take us there and we got to pick out a Little Debbie treat, which is something my mom would never have allowed, but probably for good reason looking back on that. I just remember that being so fun, and oatmeal cream pies for that reason are super nostalgic for me. So we tried this for the 4th of July and they were a huge hit, and now we have been enjoying these as often as possible this summer. The recipe is really quite simple. You just start with some butter and some brown sugar as well as some granulated sugar and mix that with 1 large egg. You'll add a little molasses and vanilla. The molasses really gives it that classic oatmeal cream pie flavor. Next, you are going to combine some flour. You can use all-purpose flour for this step if you don't fresh mill your own flour, but of course I like to use a freshly milled soft white wheat, which works as a pastry flour in most recipes. And you'll combine that with some baking soda, salt, cinnamon, and some cloves. Next, you're also going to add some oats. This recipe calls for quick oats. I never have those on hand, and so instead I just pulse a little bit of my organic rolled oats. You don't want this to be like a flour, but you want the pieces to be a little bit smaller so that it makes the cookie softer and more chewy. Finally, you combine all of these ingredients. If the dough seems a little bit too thick, you can add a little splash of cream until the dough comes together. I like to use a cookie scoop when I make these so that all the cookies are exactly the same size, which is really important when you're making the oatmeal cream pie sandwiches. Finally, you're going to cook these in the oven at 375 degrees for about 10 minutes in my oven, maybe a little bit longer. My oven does tend to cook really hot. The filling here is some butter, powdered sugar, heavy cream, vanilla, and just a pinch of salt to taste. It's important that you make sure the cookies totally cool before you try doing anything with the filling, because as they are made with fresh milled flour, it can get a little bit crumbly. So I like to let them cool on the baking sheet until they're completely cool, and then I will go ahead and pipe in this filling. These are so delicious. You will not be able to have just one, I will warn you. So make sure you do a double batch of these. I will include the recipe in the description. My sister just had her 3rd baby this week, and I am looking to make her some really nourishing foods to help heal her body during her postpartum season. This cookbook called The First 40 Days has so many great recipes for nourishing foods for postpartum moms. One of the essential keys to having a successful healing during your postpartum period is to drink a lot of nutrient-rich bone broth. I like to make my own bone broth. I feel like it turns out a lot thicker with a lot more gelatin and is a lot more nutrient dense than a store-bought version. It's also a lot cheaper. The really good high quality bone broth I was buying from the store was about $15, and this recipe is super simple and just requires a few bones and some filtered water. Get a really great gelatin-rich bone broth. To start, you just need 2 to 4 pounds of bones. I like to use the long bones that have the marrow in the bone for extra nutrients, and then just some soup bones. And I just place these in a baking sheet, drizzle with some olive oil, salt, and pepper, and then toss in some fresh ginger and onion for some extra beneficial antioxidants. These went into the oven for about 30 minutes. I like to do this roasting step. It's not absolutely essential, but I feel like it gives a much better flavor to the broth. Once the bones come out of the oven, they are crackly and smell so amazing. I went ahead and poured some filtered water into my stock pot and some apple cider vinegar. Now that's an important step, to add the apple cider vinegar, because that's what helps draw out some of those nutrients in the bones to create a really gelatin-rich bone broth. Next, I just go ahead and add all of those bones into the water. Then I let this simmer for 4 to 6 hours. It's usually reduced down and a really, really good flavor. Your entire house will smell amazing. A few hours later, I went ahead and strained the bones out of the broth, and these bones still had so much marrow, so much meat on them, that I went ahead and actually made a second batch of bone broth. The second one I did in the crock pot because it is a really great way to just fix it and forget it. I left it on the counter overnight and strained out my second batch the next day. One of the things that we have been working towards as a family is being free from the grocery store model, free from having to go to the store every single week, possibly multiple times a week. So one of the ways that we're doing this is by sourcing grass-fed organic meat locally and in bulk. We just got 1/4 of a grass-fed cow from our local farm, and we have another 4th coming in a couple months. One of the best things about sourcing meat this way is you also get all those extra products, like all of this fat that I'm going to render into tallow. Also can get the organs like liver and kidneys that can be made into capsules and taken for vitamins. So there's just so many benefits to purchasing meat this way. One of the questions that I've been asked about ordering meat in bulk like this is how to know what type of cuts to order and how many you get. And that can be a little bit confusing based off of whether you're getting 1/4 of a cow, a 1/2 of a cow, or a whole cow. But I wanted to show this simple diagram sheet that shows the different cut areas when you're ordering from a butcher shop like we did. Of course, I'm not an expert on this since this was our first time ordering it this way, but the main thing you need to decide is if you want your meat as steaks or you want more ground beef. So there are several regions that I knew that we definitely wanted steaks, and other regions that I don't love cooking a specific cut of meat. So in those regions, I just went ahead and ordered it as ground beef. For example, we really love ribeyes and sirloin steak. Those regions we ordered all steaks. I am not a huge fan of rump roasts or also the round steak area. I also ordered as hamburger because I don't love cooking cuts of steak. Some people do love those though. I feel like we got such a good variety that is going to last us for a really long time. I could definitely go into more detail on this, and maybe I will do that in a future video. I just wanted to share this so that you know it is a lot simpler than I thought it would be, and now we have a ton of meat to choose from and enjoy for the rest of the year. Thank you guys so much for joining me in my little kitchen today, and I hope you'll join me next time by liking and subscribing so that you're notified when my new videos come up. Have a great day.